Hello and welcome to Awful Wins Football and another episode of Lower League Lingo. And of course, it's an FA Cup special plus a John Foster special because, as you very well know, he just doesn't like the FA Cup. Obviously, he has to chat about other things as well. But never mind, I'm sure we will get into that at the end. But I'm really looking forward to today's show. As you can see, we have a full complement of the ordinary panel back together again. It might be an ordinary panel, but it's full of extraordinary people, including the likes of Super Gareth below us. How are you doing there?
Very well, thank you. Extraordinary. Love that. Thank you very much, Barry. I assume you mean extraordinary in a good way and not
Obviously,
extraordinary in a negative way,
no.
of course.
What's that extraordinary? What are you doing here? Sort of thing. No, definitely not that. And John, absolutely brilliant to have you back as well. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good, thank you, and well done to Kieran Jones last week. I watched the show, fantastic. So great to see him represent the Midlands there. And yeah, very well, thank you, Barry.
Brilliant. That's what we like to hear. So there is plenty to go through. 5 FA Cup matches, 1 Division 1 Midlands match to look at. So in the greatest respect, let's get straight into it. As you know, we always go from north to south, and we are kicking off in the north of England with what can only be described as a titanic battle between Rugby Borough and Mancunian Unity, who have one of the nicest badges I have seen. I quite like that. A very, very nice one indeed. So, tell us more about it, Mr. Gareth. 3-0. Why was this one of the ones that caught your eye?
I think there's been so many opportunities throughout this FA Cup run where I could have picked Mancunian Unity as a result. And it's more that this game kind of symbolises more their journey through the FA Cup this season, rather than this specific game. You know, they've had fantastic results. They've played, I believe it's Stockport, Leeds United. They've knocked out big sides. Then they were rewarded after knocking those two sides out with Handsworth, I think it was, in the last round. Which, when you face a team of a lower league, there's always that potential for a banana skin, as Mancunian Unity will well know, having been that banana skin for 2 WNL sides already that season. But they went there and did the job very professionally. And the club does not have backing of a senior club. There's no men's team there. They don't own any facilities. They rent the facilities from Avro FC in Oldham, and this whole run has been fantastic for them. They had a fantastic run last year. I think they may have got to the second round and lost against Newcastle. And again, have come up against WNL Northern Premier opposition, this time in rugby, and that run has come to an end. But I think I bang on about budgets and the finances of the FA Cup, and the kind of the opportunities that it provides. And you might argue that last year Newcastle United more of a glamour tie than Rugby Borough would be, even though Rugby were Coventry United in the Championship. Newcastle obviously are now in the Championship, but more on them later. Spoiler alert. But I just think that they've come up short here, Unity, against a professional rugby side. It's a side that I think when you look at the draw, you think Rugby will do a professional job there. Shouldn't be too difficult for them to navigate. Should come away with the win and go into the 4th round, and they've done that. And taking absolutely nothing away to them. Kudos to them. Like we said, Unity have been a banana skin for teams this season and last season, but Rugby have gone out there and with the 3 goals, have put the game to bed. They took the lead. I imagine that 1-0 was probably a bit nervy. Imagine Unity had some chances. Not totally sure, but knowing Unity, they're unlikely to not create anything for 70 minutes. Kelly Spartan scored that second goal, and then shortly later, Yasmin Mosby kind of sealed the game and does send Unity out of the competition. But on the whole, I think they can be enormously proud of what they've done. I think there are, John, you aside, Barry, we'd love for our teams to have a cup run like this. John's got too many teams, so it doesn't matter. He had a free pass in the last round. So, kudos to them. Fantastic experience. They've knocked out higher league opposition twice to get here. Leeds United, massive tie. Test themselves against some of the very best that the our leagues have to offer. And, I don't think anyone's going to look at that and think that that's an embarrassing result for Mancunian Unity. I think there are clubs in Tier 5 that will come up against Unity and would concede 7, 8, 9 goals. And, that's a tricky day at the office. You can feel deflated coming away from that. It can be tricky to come away from some of those score lines and find the positives. But I think Unity absolutely will look back at this cup run, not even not even necessarily immediately disappointed, obviously, at the weekend, but I think coming into the season, when they reflect on how the season has looked, this will absolutely be a shining point of it. And, I think all of us at this tier will kind of look at the FA Cup as a competition where, do we have realistic sights on running deep into the competition? No. Do people have a round that they want to aim for, they want to get to? Yeah, I think they do. I think people will look at it and go, this way I want to get to. In terms of the experience, these are the clubs that we can draw. These are the kind of ties that we can have. And I think that, Unity at the start of the season would have gone, second round would be good, third round would be incredible. Let's get some big ties. Let's, get ourselves out there. And fair play to them. They've absolutely used the exposure. They've been kind of picked up by BBC. I think Tom Gary did an article about them. And, they're absolutely using this run to their advantage, and all credit to them because they absolutely deserve it. But like I said, take nothing away from rugby because the professional job, and into the fourth round they go.
Absolutely, they do. And we will reveal who it is that Rugby Borough are playing in the next round. Not that you don't know, you've probably watched it already, but we will obviously talk a little bit about that because, again, more about their opponents coming up. But before we have the chance to do that, we travel to the Midlands. Now, folks, I'm going to ask you to take a moment for yourselves. If you haven't, pause this right now. Go and get yourself a cup of tea. Get it together. We've all heard of Jackanory. We've heard of Ballymorey. Now we're going to get a John Foster story. And my goodness, it's an epic, right along with the likes of War and Peace, because he chose this. I almost ran out of space, John, having to write this one out. As you can see, I've managed to fit it all. It's a good job that Shrewsbury didn't score, because otherwise Charlotte Greengrass, they would have had to go on to 2 lines, and I'm not convinced I would have fit them in. I'd have to make the font smaller. So that was my moan. But what a result that is. So apart from the absolute one-sidedness of the score, what was it that made you pick this game?
I don't think I'll ever let you live it down, the fact that you criticised me for choosing a 0-0 game once, so I'll never do that again. And I'm just going to pick any score, all the difficult names for you to type out and all that. I'm just going to make it really hard for you, I think, Barry. But
I didn't criticise you for a 0-0. I just said you better have a very good reason for picking a 0-0 because it's going to have a lot going on.
Only joking, but it's also an FA Cup game, so I'm doing quite well for myself as well at the start of this show. So no, look, I think there's only so many times you can ignore the emphatic score lines. Wolves have done really well so far in the FA Cup. Something like along the lines of 3 wins, 29 goals scored, 11 different scorers. I don't know how many they've conceded, but it's probably just like a handful, if that. So it's just something that just has to be mentioned. And I know it's a bit of a sensitive subject when you start battering teams to this kind of level. I remember last year, Calsa, you could tick that one off, Gareth. Calsa won something like 35-0 last year. Barry make me laugh every time, every show. But yeah, Calsa won something like 35-0 last year in one of the cups, and they got ridiculed for it. You know, and all the tweets that went out, you know, celebrating the goals, etc. And I'm going to bring you both in towards the end just to kind of get your thoughts on something a bit later. But yeah, I think you just sometimes you just have to take your hats off and say, look, what can Wolves do here? You know, they're against a tier 5 side, they're a tier 3 side. We know there's banana skins out there. We saw it in other Midlands teams where a tier 5 team won a tier 3 team. So it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion. So to win 14-0 is absolutely, it is a good win for them. Shrewsbury's head coach used to be at Wolves. I know I mentioned that earlier in the season, but I just thought it's a good time to remember it. But it's also, it does get a little bit awkward. So I remember commentating on Wolves a couple of weeks ago when they played Calcer, and they won something like 8-1. And when it got to about 5-0 at half time, you don't want to commentate on it because it just gets so awkward. So there is a lot of awkward moments. And like I say, I'm going to bring you in towards the end because I want to hear your opinions on a couple of things. Just about the game itself, you can see all the score is there, but I will just go into just a little bit of detail. Destiny Toussaint's opened the scoring after 6 minutes. Destiny's someone I've rated very highly. You mentioned Cov United earlier, Gareth. I first watched her at Cov United a few seasons ago in the Championship, and she's quality, and she's a fantastic player for Wolves. Jane Cross made it 2 after 15 minutes. Jane Cross was a substitute in the last game. She started this game. She's very well known across the Midlands. Fantastic striker. She's coming. I suppose she's like not first choice anymore. Greengrass is probably first choice with Amber Hughes, but Jay Cross is still exceptional and can probably get into any other tier 3 side. So yeah, fantastic to see her on the score sheet. Becky Anderson is someone I didn't really know too much about until this season. She was my player of the match when I watched her play in the previous round, and she got on the score sheet to make it 3-0 after 19 minutes. And then Charlotte Greengrass got her first one. Of 5 goals that she ended up scoring in the 26 minutes. And she's the leading goal scorer for Wolves. I think she's joint leading goal scorer for the league, Tier 3 North. So she's obviously a fantastic signing this season as well. She scored a game just a couple of minutes later. And then captain Tammy George and Beth Merrick made it 7-0 at half time. And this is kind of where I'm going to bring you guys in shortly. Twitter then started to calm down a little bit in the half time. They didn't go goal by goal. They kind of just like clumped it together a little bit. Didn't over exaggerate like maybe what Calcer did last season where they got criticised for with goal. They kind of just like grouped it together a little bit. So obviously there was 7 more goals in that second half. Greengrass ended up scoring 5 in total. And yeah, just at the end, the manager, McNamara, we call him Macca. He says that he changed formation. He says that like they prepped properly, they treated them with respect. They got Cheltenham in the next round as well, which is going to be a fantastic tie. And they got WBA next in the league game. Darryl, the Shrewsbury manager, basically says she took like a load of pride getting this far in the cup. Her highlight was winning Northampton, which is obviously a tier 4 team, Shrewsbury a tier 5. But just for a couple of minutes, just open it up to you guys. As a social media person, as a manager, at what point do you start taking your foot off the pedal, or what time do you start showing respect, if it is respect, by just easing off a little bit? So just to put it out there, I've heard managers say when they get something like 6-7 up and they're comfortable, they make little things like say every player has to touch the ball before before you take a shot. If you're a social media person, where do you draw the line about keep on battering it out? So just a few seconds each. Maybe if you want to start on that or whoever.
I think it really is difficult because, again, you're talking to 2 teachers here for a start. So instantly we move into, and that's exactly what we would do at like under 11s. 100%. You would sit there if your side's winning 4-5-0. Usually you do something like, you can bring an extra player on. But sometimes that they're learning the game. I don't know. It sounds in my ears, it sounds condescending to sort of say, we're not going to try. We're going to take the foot off the pedal, all of that sort of thing. I think it's also difficult because I was looking at this one, I think, and the substitutions in some respects are a little bit later. It's the same with another one that you had a bit later on that you're going to talk about. But actually, there's only a set number of substitutions you can make. So, what you're going to do, you're going to take the striker and put them in to centre back. It's literally their job to go out there and try and score the goals. Nobody's deliberately trying to make bad, but if you look at the Lionesses and how they were performing, if it was only a couple of years ago, they were beating Latvia 20-0. It's your job for the integrity of the competition, I think, to play to the very best of your ability at all times. And that speaks more to the cup competition itself. It's going to happen at times, Shrewsbury are a side that are working incredibly hard, but they're up against Wolverhampton Wanderers, who, are a big side. And, we've seen this happen in the men's game, that you can play a game and get walloped. And it just happens. It's one of those days. I don't think this is something that happens to Shrewsbury week in, week out. And I think that's the heart I would take from it, personally.
Yeah, I think I largely agree, actually. I think if you start kind of putting stipulations in place, I think that's more disrespectful to your opposition than just playing the game. I think, if you've got opportunities, if you're 7-0 up, to try a new shape or to try and bed some players in that you've not bed in and stuff like that, then by all means do that. But I think actually it's more disrespectful to the opposition and the opponents than to just pass it around and keep the ball, or to not try, or to get and turn around and pass backwards. I think that's more disrespectful. The social media side of things, I'm torn, actually. There's been times where last season we won some games 20+0. We won a game 24-0 last season. And I stopped tweeting goals at 10. So we went 10-0 up, and after that I stopped. Which on one hand, I think, if you were to tweet every goal in a 24-0 kind of win, there's going to be, I think there's some pushback possibly, because that, I think, that's just the way things are at the moment. But my question would be, why does Rebecca Anderson's goal deserve more attention on social media than Tammy George's goal? So I don't think it's fair on the players that are out there playing the game to not have the credit and the attention that their goals deserve, just because it happens to be in the late half of the game. Anya Denham has taken that opportunity. She's got that goal. It was the last goal of the game, but to her, that's just as important as Destiny's goal in the 5th minute. So I think that actually that we run that risk of, in trying to be respectful to our opposition, actually then being not necessarily disrespectful, but you can kind of cut your nose off to spite your face a little bit. I think if it was a county cup game, we can have questions about how the county cups work. I think the county cup should be seeded, and ties like this shouldn't happen in the first round of county cups, and they do regularly. But it's the FA Cup, and it is seeded, and it's then down to the teams to go out there and do the business. And where there is X amount of money on the line, I think, what was it, £15,000 for winning this? For winning this game, something along those lines. There's a lot of money on the line as well. So I don't think you can expect teams to not go out there and do the business. Horrible for the Shrewsbury players, demoralising, I assume, and difficult on the day for the staff, because at 7-0 at half time, what can you say or do? But it's the FA Cup, and like Barry said, for the absolute integrity of the competition, you need every team to go out there and do what they can do and show off what they can show off. And I think it's unfortunate for Shrewsbury. Maybe Wolves could have rotated, but if Wolves have rotated and they've got beaten by Shrewsbury, then people would criticise them for that as well. So it's a lose-lose situation for Wolves. It's tricky for Shrewsbury, but like I say, I think it's more disrespectful if you start adding stipulations or putting your centre back up top or all sorts of things like that. I think that then just makes a bit of a mockery of the opposition, which we obviously want to avoid.
I think the flip side as well with that, John, just to add to the social media bit, is that this is the Wolves social media. So if they've tweeted all 14. This is the Wolves social media, which is really for Wolves fans. As long as they're not sitting there tagging in Shrewsbury, like, it's Wolves 10, Shrewsbury 0, and they're doing that. That's like mocking to me. I would leave them well out of being any tags or anything like that, and we wouldn't go overboard with the celebrations and things like that afterwards. I don't think that's certainly not the way I would run it, but I totally agree with what Gareth said. You have to, because on the social media side, it's a fine balancing line, because you're moving towards the journalistic side of things, and the fact that you are recording for posterity, for future generations, the information that's going on in that game. So you owe it to the public to be honest about what's going on as best as you can, whilst also protecting the reputation of the players and the people who you're serving in this respect. And I can remember one of our players scored an own goal, and I had to put on there, oh yeah, she's turned the ball into her own net. And she said to me last time, you put that? You actually put that I scored an own goal? I'm like, well, did you? She said, yes. I said, well, I mean, yes, I did. And to be fair, the gaffer backed us up and went, yeah, if you don't want your name down, don't score an own goal. That'd be the easiest way. But it's difficult, because generally I wouldn't necessarily, if I don't want to embarrass them. And that's the thing. You don't want to embarrass anybody, but equally, if you were watching it on the telly, everyone sees it. The people that were there have seen it. Somebody else could put it out there. So, it's like, it's not great. The score's not ideal in that respect, but I think you have to just take it on the chin, I think.
Yeah. I think just one last thing as well. It's all going on full time anyway. So, it's going to get publicized some way. So I don't think it makes a massive difference kind of where or when. I think the primary argument, isn't it, is that our teams should take the foot off the gas, but I don't buy that at all, like for the reasons I've said.
So there we go. But there we go. Good talking point. And there was a part of me that wondered if that was why you brought this one in. But there you go. Wolves will be away, as John mentioned, to Cheltenham, who managed to beat Norwich by 2-1 in the previous round. So well done to them. And yeah, that should be a very good one. And that's me. You've mentioned Cheltenham, so that's 2, I think, off of your list. Very interesting to see how we get on with the next 3, John. But it's over to me now. So that's interesting news. And I've picked, honestly, my goodness, our game was called off on Sunday, so I had the opportunity to actually watch Twitter live as it was going through. And what a game. What a game this turned out to be. It caught my attention immediately. 133 lucky souls sitting there watching this game. Absolutely outrageous how it turned up. The first thing that caught my eye was Millie Isherwood. So she scores the first goal for London Bees literally a minute in. And again, superb goal. There'll be a theme through a lot of these, but the possession was won in midfield by the Bees. Pass through to Millie Isherwood. She runs through, slots the ball home, nice and easy. And what a way to start your FA Cup campaign against QPR. Now, this was 4th against 6th. In the WNL South East Division 1. So it was always, we thought, going to be a tight game. The last time they played, I think it was 2-2. So yeah, really, really big. But that was 1 minute. 4 minutes in, Courtney Ward-Chambers, wallop, here you go. Same thing, won the position in the midfield, but this time over by the byline. She runs all the way down to the end, cuts it back, and it's turned in. If you want an example of those sort of goals, think Man United men like all of last season. And if you want to actually watch it, you can, because these highlights are on London Bees Twitter page. And there's a very good 3 minutes worth of info. But then again, literally by 8 minutes, it's turned around on its head. It's gone from being 1-0 to 2-1 with Ashley Goddard. Lovely little corner in. She just heads it in at the far post. So you're 2-1 at this point. Half time just on its way. And then Joanna Blodgett gets sent off for a second bookable offence a minute before half time. That's 2-1. They're still winning. So you're thinking this might not be too bad. And to be fairness, the second half, you wouldn't necessarily have thought it was going to come back. It wasn't looking brilliant for the girls from London Bees until the 77th minute, when Millie Isherwood, who again, 1,000 Pitsy, I've seen her play, a great striker, absolutely superb. And she took her chance again incredibly well. This time it was across from the right-hand side from about 35 yards out on the wing. And again, she just ghosted in between the 2 defenders, caught the ball in at the far post, 2-2. And that took it to extra time. Now, of course, it being the FA Cup third round, that was the first time during the whole competition that extra time has been allowed. If that had been the last one, you end up in a penalty shootout, which you might unfortunately lose 15-14. So, hearts can be broken. But believe me when I tell you, the hearts were broken this time in extra time, because QPR, bless them, stood straight up and went, that's fine. All right, we'll have extra time. And they took the lead. As you can see, Grace Stanley in the 96th minute, just 6 minutes into extra time. And this time it was a ball all the way over the top. The goalkeeper's come running out. That's Tia Jin from Bees. And again, just slots it in, it rolls into the line, and QPR absolutely delighted. 3-2 up. They're thinking, brilliant, here we go. But they didn't count on Millie Isherwood. It's not great, because 90 plus 9 for them, it's the 99th minute, and my goodness, same thing. Cross from the right-hand side. You can actually hear on the VO, you can hear the QPR manager going, stop the cross. Didn't stop the cross. Should have stopped the cross. Didn't. Went over the goalkeeper, just out of reach of Nicole Mellin's hands, and it's then stuck into the back of the net. 3-0. Absolute nightmare for QPR. By this point, they've been playing with 10 men for large parts of the game, and obviously a bit tired, and we then end up with goals 4, 5 and 6. As you can see there, those goals were scored by Lily Whitelock, Hayley Hoare, and another one from Millie Isherwood. And my goodness, all from the right-hand side pretty much, except for the last one, which I have to say is an absolute doozy. Free kick from the right-hand side, straight over the top and into the net. Honestly, just watching this on Twitter as it was coming through, it was taking me to my Jeff Stelling days watching Soccer Saturday. It was unreal seeing these constant updates coming through from both sides. You were seeing really good media from London Bees, really good media from QPR. Honestly, absolutely kept me entertained fully throughout all of that day. So congratulations to both teams for putting on an absolute corker of an FA Cup third round. QPR narrowly missed out, as I say, and that is a bit of a shame for QPR. But the good news is that London Bees make it through to the next round, where they will face Rugby Borough from the very beginning of the show. So, it's quite a big game in itself there, and one that we will definitely have our eyes across as we move into the FA Cup fourth round. But absolutely, what a tie. 9 goals. And again, these stories are out there time and time again. And it's really good that we've had the opportunity to find them. So there we go. That was London Bees against QPR. But this one did catch me for a minute when it first came through. That the boys are asked to send through the matches they want to cover. And of course, when you said Newcastle and Middlesbrough, instantly my head went, Middlesbrough are a top side. And then you remember, of course, that it's not always the case that just because it's a big footballing name that they are going to be within the top 2 divisions of the country. So although Newcastle are newly into the Championship, Middlesbrough are not. And to tell us all about this heroic battle, it's Mr. Gareth once again. How you doing, sir? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so obviously there's some interest from me in Middlesbrough's journey anyway, as it was them that knocked Wythenshawe out of the competition. But just, I love it when the FA Cup throws in these local derbies that you wouldn't usually get. And this is what we got here. Again, I think probably really that actually you would expect Newcastle to go and get the job done, but you've got a Championship side here coming up against a National League Division 1 side. Middlesbrough's form as well recently has been not shaky, but they were top of the league when they played us in the first round proper, and then have kind of fallen away kind of over the last month, and it's now a real title battle in that league. But it seemed like a real battle, this game. I think 0-0 for large parts of that first half. If you've got an opportunity, it only takes one chance and it really throws the cat among the pigeons. Didn't. Hannah Greenwood gave Newcastle the lead just before half-time. And then for a large part of the second half, Middlesbrough had opportunities. had the chances to, you get an equaliser, that momentum shifts, you never know what could happen. But ultimately, Hannah Greenwood scored again in the 84th minute and gave Newcastle the win overall. But it will have come out of the hat, and the Middlesbrough players, I think, would have looked at it and gone, "This is a massive game. It's a derby game. It's for pride." Kingston Park Stadium, although not St James's Park, I believe is where Newcastle Falcons play. So it's it's a stadium nonetheless. It's a big occasion. I don't know what the attendance was, and it would appear that it's not been publicised, but there was the opportunity to really make a game of it, and these are the kind of stories that I really love from the FA Cup. Not necessarily a big underdog story. Either of the two games that I picked up on, I think they would be pretty routine wins for the winners. But I think this is massive for those players. For those, if you grow up in the Northeast, you'll look at games Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough, and there'll be games where they're big games in the region, and so to play in those games must be kind of huge for them, and what an opportunity for those players. It hasn't gone the way they would have wanted, but again, I think there's absolutely no shame in going out to championship opposition when you're in the fourth tier of football, and I'm sure actually on reflection they'll look at it now and go, we now just need to concentrate on getting that first place back in the league. And ultimately, that's where everyone's attention is going to turn eventually, because, like I said, without wanting to seem like a Debbie Downer, all of these teams' cup runs are going to come to an end at some point, probably. Newcastle probably want to go a bit further than everybody else. But, ultimately, these teams are going to come unstuck. But it's about getting those big ties. It's about getting those occasions for those players. And this is absolutely one of them. And credit to Middlesbrough. They've gone there, and Newcastle were embarrassing teams in the league last year. So to go there and only lose 2-0 against a side that was battering teams week in, week out last year, has added players over the summer, is absolutely no mean feat, and they can probably come away with this again, similar to Mancunian Unity, with their heads held high, because ultimately the gap in terms of league and stature is the same, Middlesbrough to Newcastle, as Unity to Rugby Borough. So just wanted to highlight a derby that the Cup has thrown up, and unfortunately for Middlesbrough, it wasn't their day, but Newcastle are a class outfit, and they will go away the lasses, I think is what they say, isn't it? So on they go into the next round, and they will be looking to progress even further into the competition.
Well, I mean, absolutely, and highlights that you absolutely have. They've done, as you say, incredibly well. Middlesbrough will go on to face Nottingham Forest at the weekend, whereas Newcastle, of course, are, when this comes out, going to be getting ready to face Manchester United in the League Cup. So, yeah, very differing fortunes for both sides at the moment. But yes, a very good result for Middlesbrough nonetheless. Newcastle have drawn, interestingly enough. Newcastle drew Forest or Burnley. So as it stands, it's Forest for Middlesbrough, but it very well could not be, because Newcastle might steal them should Forest beat Burnley. All of the ties that are being played next week. So it'll be very interesting on the Sunday to see how they do. Do you know what one of those sides is that's playing on Sunday, John? One of the ones that's the or? No, not sure. Okay, we're gonna get him. We'll get him at some point. Don't you worry.
We've got two of the bingo card ticked off already, so
Hey,
I'm doing so well.
We'll get it. Don't worry. We'll definitely make him stay. It's surely gonna happen. We will get bingo.
You really got me.
So yeah, there we go. But brilliant stuff nonetheless. Right, over to me again, and we have got the final FA Cup game that we are spotlighting this week, and as you can see, my goodness, what an attendance that is. Best one of the lot so far that we know about, because we don't know about the Newcastle one. 719 people channeled into the Bedfont Sports Club to watch Brentford against Fulham, a proper London derby going on there between these two teams. And for me, the reason why I was so desperate to highlight this is because Fulham are a tier 5 side. They are in the London and South East Regional Women's Football League. Brentford, the league below, in Division 1. So they are a tier 6 side. Division 1 North, I think they are. And again, really, really, really good match going on here. Fulham are a side that are really working hard, looking for promotion into tier 4 as best as they possibly can. Brentford, obviously, are in tier 6, second, and looking to get into tier 5 as well. So there is a chance that these two could be meeting next year if Fulham don't manage to make it into tier 4, and Brentford do get up. So two really big sides there. We've featured Brentford on this channel before. We've done an interview with them right at the very beginning of the channel, so it would definitely be worth having a look back to see if you recognize the people that we're talking to there. But a great occasion nonetheless, and really big game with this, a number of people there to watch. There's not a huge amount of information out there other than what you see. Ellie Olds scoring the goal on the 48th minute, I think that is there. My eyes are not what they used to be. Yep, the 48th minute. And 0-0 at half time. So very, very, very interesting to see what's going on there. I cannot believe that I've got Lily Whitelock and Hayley Hall. I knew something like this was going to happen. I cannot, but I said to these guys, these slides are perfect. I've done them brilliantly, and I've absolutely mucked it up there. So I apologise, Brentford and Fulham, because neither of those players play for either of you. So that's what I get for being confident. I'm going to chastise myself suitably. But nonetheless, 48 minutes gone. That was the goal. Chloe Logie in equalised for Brentford. Great goal from what you can see. Again, that's on their Twitter page should you wish to go and see it. But again, the ball comes in one-on-one with the goalkeeper, smashes it into the top right-hand corner. Absolutely no chance. And it was level. And they would have been hoping that they could have either taken it to extra time or tried to go one better. But within 2 minutes, Maddinson Parsonson has made it 2-1, and that was how the game finished. So the reason why, again, I wanted to throw this one up, and I'm going to just double check this with you guys because it's been a bit of a busy weekend and I haven't had the chance to check it. But Fulham are, as I said, a tier 5 side. Out of your Northern and Midland teams, are there any tier 5 teams left out of yours? I did look through it, but I don't recall seeing anyone that immediately jumped out.
There's a tier
I
5
think
in
Fulham.
So that's it.
Oh, of course, there is the tier 5 side left in the competition.
Is there? Who's that?
Not in the fourth round yet, but there is still one.
Oh yeah, I was talking about
around,
ones that are definitely through, not ones that are still. That wasn't a could try to go and get you on for bingo. No, I remember the question I wanted to ask now. Yes, I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to.
So Fulham are the only side currently into the fourth round. Yeah.
From tier 5, and that was why I was so desperate to get it. And actually, if you watch one of our other channels that we've got, I was sat there when the draw was happening live, really wanting Fulham to draw Manchester United, because obviously they were the 16th match picked out and United were picked out at the 14th, and I just thought of all the teams that are left, that would be a massive day out for them to have the opportunity to play a WSL side, and they deserve it. You get into the fourth round of the FA Cup, into the last 32 teams, and you're a tier 5 side, you definitely want something like that. But instead, they were drawn out in the 16th one, and they will face, it's definitely a good second best one, London City Lionesses, who won 4-0 against Gwalior United from the Southern Premier Division in Tier 3. So yeah, what an absolute fixture that is. I think it's going to be a really good FA Cup fourth round. I could run through all of the matches, but let's be honest, you already know what they are, and they're not all fully done. So we will probably have a look at that at another time. As you can see, we've had Jackanory part 1. So now we're going in for the John Foster story part 2, because on this one, it is Loughborough Lightning against Lincoln City. And so settle down, get your hot chocolate out, and listen to the dulcet tones of John Foster.
You know what? On this occasion, it's not just about the 9-0. I think this is probably my favourite league that I've been speaking about throughout this series that we've been doing since we started. I just feel that title race in Tier 4 Midlands is just between 4 teams at the moment, and it has been from day one, and it looks like it's going to go that way right until the end. You got Bolmere that's getting better and better as well, so maybe they could put a run together and make it between 5 teams. But Loughborough is probably one team that I haven't spoken about as much as the rest, even though I have spoken about them early on in the season. Just to throw it out there, Peterborough, Northampton, Leafield, they've all been top at some point in this league. And Loughborough have always had games in hand. So if they continue to win their games in hand, they will go top of this league, and it's really, really exciting because you just don't know how it's going, and all of them have different models as well. So obviously Loughborough is like a university-based team, so it's really exciting to watch, and I have no idea which way it's going to go. Peterborough was my favourite at the start of the season. I'm still going to stick with that. But the way Loughborough are going at the moment, they are really, really, really strong. And they've lost their captain as well since I last covered them. So Kaylee Hines went to rivals, Peterborough. As well, so Loughborough are still looking strong, absolutely. Lincoln City, on the other hand, have undergone a few changes in the summer and this season, and they're currently chasing Solihull Moors and Worcester City to stay up in Tier 4 this season. They haven't scored since September, and they're still haven't got any points in the league so far, obviously approaching Christmas. So not a great time for Lincoln City at all. However, what I would say is Solihull Moors are only 3 points above them. They're going to play them again. Worcester's only 7 points. I say only, but it's still achievable. These are 2 teams that they can still they're still going to play them, and they can still get points against them. So it's not all doom and gloom for Lincoln City. They will look at these 2 games and think, okay, we can pick up points there. As for the game, I know you can leave the screen, the table on, but Douglas opened the scoring. That was a bit of a cutback from Purchase. Arba scored in the 17th minute, making it 2. 28 minutes in, it was a scramble inside the box from Delglin, scored her second, and then she scored a hat-trick, all within 30 minutes. Collier scored on the 40th, which sounds like a great goal because the way they described it from outside the box, it sounded really good. And then there was another goal outside the box, this time from Williams, to make it 6-0 at half-time. Arba completed a hat-trick to make it 7-0, then 8-0, and then Powell made it 9-0 on the 90th minute. And you mentioned Man United earlier on. Loughborough, their next game is against Manchester United in the Plate. It's a long time coming, this one is. There's been, I think, pretty much every other game in the Plate and the Cup has been played. So this has just been like a long time coming. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this top of Tier 4 team does against Manchester United Academy team.
I think you're right. Absolutely. I can't disagree with anything you said there. And when you look at, as you said, the title race and indeed the relegation race as it stands, it's certainly starting to shuffle a bit. You would say anyone from the top 4, as you say, Northampton, Peterborough, Leafield, and Loughborough Lightning, all in with a chance. Peterborough switching with Leafield, and Barnsley women swapping with Notts County after the weekend. Worcester City, 4 points clear, a win, and you have to wonder if that is all she wrote for Solihull Moors and Lincoln City. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Guys, it's been an absolute banger, but we do have to do our usual run around to find out where people should be diverting their attention for what I believe nationwide will be the last weekend of football in action before Santa pops down the chimney and leaves you all lots of presents and eats all your mince pies. So what should be the final game of 2024 in the North, Gareth?
That's a great question, Barry. And can we do, I don't know, let's mix it up this week. Let's go south to north. No reason.
I mean, I can do south to north if you really want to. I wonder why we're having to do that. But there we go. I can do it because I have mine available. And it was interesting because I was going to pick a Division 1 Southeast or Southwest match. because there was only 2 games that were played that weren't FA Cup, and both of them just absolutely blew my mind. For a start, Swindon could have gone top of the table, but they lost to Keynsham Town, and that was quite interesting because Keynsham Town are, you know, a bit lower down, not really in the title race, but they dragged themselves back into it. So a good opportunity for Swindon to have leapfrogged Bournemouth, who have got obviously a lot of points ahead at the moment, or were games in hand. So that all went a little bit wrong for Swindon. So I was going to pick them as the big game, but they've got to play 2 games at the weekend, and I don't know which one it is that's going to take precedence, whether it'll be their County Cup match or their game against Bournemouth Sports, not to be confused with AFC Bournemouth at the top. They're very different ends. So instead, I'm picking the Division 1 South East. My match that you should be keeping your beady eyes out for is Actonians against Chatham United. Chatham United and Chatham Town. Sorry, that is a great game. It really is, because Actonians are another one of those sides who, had they won, would have gone top of the table. They didn't, and the game that they lost was a real shame for them. It's 5-1. They got absolutely whopped by Cambridge United, who are currently sat in 9th, and so for them, that really helped pull them away from the relegation zone. So I would pick that game because, as I say, Actonians away to Chatham Town. Chatham Town are second. So whoever wins that potentially could go top, depending on how Real Bedford get on against Full Circle, London Bees. So big league to look at there. And that would be my one to pick. Gareth, I feel like I bought you enough time there, mate. So are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, I was always ready, of course. I just thought,
Always.
let's mix it up. This game has massive ramifications at both the top and bottom of the league, and we will know by now that I absolutely love a title race and I absolutely love a relegation scrap. So this ticks both boxes, and that is Leeds United, who currently sit top of the Women's National League Division 1 North. We spoke about them, I believe, last week. And then they host AFC Fylde, who currently sit bottom of the same division. So it's top versus bottom. A huge opportunity for Leeds to kind of cement that top spot. And, you know, if Fylde can cause an upset, that really puts the cat amongst the pigeons for the second time I've said that tonight, down at the bottom. So, it ticks both of the boxes of the relegation and promotion scrap. It strikes me as something that I would definitely be keeping an eye out come Sunday evening for.
100%. I mean, that's a free hit for Fylde, really, isn't it? It's one of those where just get what you can out of it if you can. John, presumably you're going to mention 3 teams, so I'm here, ready, and waiting. Off we go.
Well, Gareth likes his title races. I like my derby games. I like the Birmingham derby games. And I'm sure I mentioned this at the start of the season as well. Bournemouth versus Sutton Coldfield. It's a Sutton Coldfield derby. It's going to be on the radio. It's going to be on Switch Sport. It's a massive game in the area. They're only like 5-minute drive from each other as well. I know some people who watch the first game of Sutton, and then Bournemouth kicks off at 3:00, and then they go watch the rest of the Bournemouth game. It's really tense, and this rivalry is going to get even bigger. Sutton Coldfield, I mentioned the last couple of weeks, they got a new manager. Bournemouth are signing well, got a bit of money behind them as well now as well. Signed Leonie Joyce, fantastic player, fantastic striker. She only came in the last couple of weeks, so she might get her first goal. It's just a cracking game, and I think these two will be in the mix with the other 4 teams that I mentioned in Division 1 Midlands earlier in the show. So you've then got 6 teams there who will all be pushing each other going forward. Obviously not this season, it's a little bit too late to add these 2 teams into the mix this season, but next season you add these 2 with the 4 that we've already mentioned, plus the relegated side from Tier 3, plus anything else that goes on. That league is looking really, really tasty.
Really, really is. And I said you were mentioning 3 teams. You actually mentioned 4.
Did I?
Yeah. Bournemouth, Sutton Coldfield, Birmingham, and Derby.
Hey! Well done.
There we go. That's how we're going to finish the show. So well done. Thank you very much. The pair of you, as ever, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends, let everybody know, because we are really trying as best as we can to try and lift up that profile of the lower league footballers. We've managed to talk about it for 50 minutes, which would be the usual sort of show on this channel, and that just goes to show what talking points there are. You don't just have to look at the WSL, you don't just have to look at the Championship, because football is alive and well in the lower leagues. Have a wonderful week. Take care.